Okie dokie. Now it's preparing to live stream. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. All right, here we are. Fantastic. This is our first time. All right, let's see. Hold on for a second, you guys. I've got my two cats in here. Okay, so here we are. For those of you that are familiar with my face, this is me, Caroline Beste of the Tao of Horsemanship. And this is my co-host, Lydia Primavera. And co-host because she co-hosts with me on my Everything Horses and More monthly podcasts. We, unfortunately, this is our first time on YouTube. And I thought, this is great. Well, Lydia thought this to do YouTube because we could not access my account on Facebook for various reasons I'm not going to go into. Whenever we do podcasts, of course, I edit them and upload them to one of the directories like Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, but we always stream them live to Facebook just to get more coverage. And, there's quite a few people that like to sit in and listen. But I think we're going to switch to YouTube now. And what a great idea, Lydia. Thank you. Because this is where my real audience is. 30-some thousand of you that like to see videos of what I'm doing and how I do it with the horses. So this is our first one, you guys, as far as a podcast. Awesome. Now, this isn't our first podcast. If you guys don't know, I've been doing this for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in February of 2023. Yeah, it's been a while. So if you look up Everything Horses and More, Caroline Beste, Tao of Horsemanship, you'll find those podcasts. But this is our first time going live on YouTube. All right, and today's topic is about pressure and release, the technique of pressure and release. And I have a big question. Is it necessary? Now, Lydia is here as my co-host to look at comments. If anybody has anything to say, if you have any questions, we are here to take those questions during the podcast. And of course, I'll be checking in after the podcast.
And I'm checking the Tao page to see if any questions are there, maybe, if that's how it has to happen.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
my question then is this live YouTube streaming to Facebook?
No,
No.
I just
Okay.
put the link there so they can find us.
Okay. Gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So then that means they'll be on YouTube though. They will, I would think they'd be solely on YouTube. All right. So this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I think it is to most horse owners or anyone that has a horse or is trying to train their horse, develop their horse themselves. It relates to everyone, any horse enthusiast or horse owner, I think. And there is a lot of controversy, for the lack of a better word, around pressure and release. And you guys definitely leave your comments and questions. And so for me, as a professional horse trainer, I'm really not crazy about, hi, Josando. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly. I'm welcome. I don't like to use the word training in the context of training horses because I feel so strongly that you're developing the horse until you have a foundation. And then once you have a solid foundation of connection and relationship and partnership, leadership, all of the qualities needed for you and your horse to work together easily, then you can keep growing. And then when you have a foundation, I like to use the words schooling, training, learning, obviously educating. But in the beginning, when you're developing a horse's foundation, you're developing it. So I think the language definitely could change a little bit, because when you think of the word develop, it, to me, it's an open, it's more open. It's not a box, meaning, you're developing the horse emotionally, following my method, it's holistic. So you're developing them emotionally, physically, mentally, and there's a spirituality to it as well. So pressure and release really bothers me. And I did a couple of posts on my Facebook recently about this subject this month. And, pressure and release is different than pressure. And in the post, horses use pressure all the time. And I think most of us understand that. They use pressure to move each other. They use pressure to communicate. They use pressure to reinforce their authority, or like a mother will with a baby, its sense of order or management or social behavior. Pressure is always there. The key to this particular podcast is how we use pressure, how we understand the use of pressure. And it's not so much about pressure and release. And even though there is a release involved when a horse uses pressure with another horse, there should be a healthy release. Horses don't think of it logically. They don't have that frontal lobe. They don't think about it in a logical, analytical way like we do. And then, to me, pressure and release has been so misinterpreted throughout time, misunderstood, misused, misinterpreted. And a lot of the current training techniques out there, for the lack of a better word, they are current. They've been around for a long time, whether it's natural horsemanship, whether it's more gentle horsemanship, whatever you call yourself or whatever you're studying, pressure and release exists just in the mere fact of using desensitizing tactics. And even operant conditioning, when you get into positive and negative reinforcement with horses, it's an operant conditioning. And operant conditioning is a positive and a negative. It's a pressure and a release. And so this is where it gets misconstrued. And I personally do not use pressure and release in my training or my work with horses or my development with horses. And Mateo's video on my YouTube channel, Mateo's video is the Frisian horse retraining, Mateo's 18th week. So that would be the premiere video on my channel, on my YouTube channel. And this is a horse that was started very young with a lot of pressure and a lot of force, and came with a lot of trauma because of those experiences. And so if I were to use pressure and release with a horse that I was rehabilitating, I'm not teaching him anything. Well, I could be teaching him one thing. Let's put it that way. Instead of teaching him many things, especially how to be a thinker, think for himself, how to have healthy autonomy, be confident, and think for himself is the key word here. Instead of teaching him many things just through pressure and healthy, applicable amounts of pressure, if I just did pressure and release, I wouldn't be teaching him anything, because unfortunately, he's so traumatized that when you put pressure on him, it's a trigger. He goes into his self-preservation mode. And if I think that his self-preservation mode is good or correct, or he's learning, and then I release the pressure because I want that moment, I want him to really learn from that release. Basically, he's learning how to go into that self-preservation mode to avoid the pressure. Does that make sense, Lydia?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
I mean, this is a really deep conversation that I've thought so much about over the years on how to articulate why it's not healthy. And it really takes, in some of my YouTube videos, I have used I think maybe only one, and that was with my baby that was so afraid, my baby horse Blue, years ago, that was so afraid of the bag. And for no reason, he had learned it through association. And if I didn't do something about it then and there, because it had become so dangerous, he was trying to run me over, my staff over when we handled him. If I hadn't dealt with it then and there at that level of expertise, it would have stayed, it would have gotten worse. So that level of expertise in that particular 3-day or 3-part video, because it was hours long, that level of expertise involved a lot of experience on my part, feel and timing for the horse, and a breakthrough. But that is
I learned a lot from
lesson.
watching those. I learned a lot from watching those. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And that was
Especially that one. Yeah.
That's like one. Thanks, Lydia.
And didn't he kind of pick it up from Sundance and Lovey? It was like learned from other horses. So it was like you had to work with all three. You had to work with all three of them.
Yes, I did. It was nuts, you guys. And it looks like, desensitizing or flooding to the naked eye to someone that's not experienced and doesn't have a trained eye or experience dealing with it. But I had to do something to make a breakthrough, to get to a different place with him, to get him to separate himself from the other 2 mares that he had learned this negative association with. But without, going down the rabbit hole and talking about that, there's only that less than 1% that I'm going to use it in extreme rehab cases, but it's always used in the context of making a breakthrough, helping the horse work through. And so the releases are a feel and timing, but I'm not mentally thinking that I'm releasing to teach the horse. It's because the horse needs time to process, needs time for dwelling. So that they're not overfaced or overwhelmed, constantly overstimulated by whatever it is I'm doing that they are afraid of. That's just a very slim chance. And so that's the point I want to make about pressure and release is too often I see my students, all different ages, all different levels of experience, still using huge amounts of pressure and release tactics that they're learning from, all the different trainers out there. Just riding the buck out of a horse is pressure and release. I mean, you are putting all that pressure on the horse, pressure in many forms, you being on the horse, whether it's a rehab case or it's a young horse, it shouldn't even be bucking. The pressure of the girth, the saddle, the enclosure, everything, the mouth, in their mouth. I mean, that's pressure. And so what do most people do? Well, I'm going to ride the buck out of the horse. So, you stay with it and stay with it and stay with it. And then when the horse stops bucking, a lot of people get off to reward the horse. And first of all, I don't ride bucking horses. I don't want them bucking. I don't want them afraid. I don't want them to get to that point of self-preservation. It's unnecessary. And if there is something that startles a horse and they start bucking, I don't want it, I want to stay on and I want to work them through it. And that's part of the feel and timing of pressure, of being in that moment with them and understanding, when to push, when to back off a little bit, when to hold that pressure. It is tough. It is tough. It is a very complicated thing for sure. But yeah, Blue was really young, Lydia, when I got him. He was 8 months old. And shortly after that, he had attached himself to Lovey, especially one of my mares. And then Sundance was part of that herd dynamic, my other lead mare. And yeah, and within 6 months, yeah, he was just like freaking out. He was already, overly sensitive and unconfident. It didn't take much for him to latch on to the negative. It's crazy. It's like people, when you're down and out or you don't have a lot of confidence or self-esteem, it's easy for us to attach ourselves to the negative, what we hear, what someone says to us, what someone does to us. I think that's just happens in, in general in life. But yeah, he, that really got carried away. But yeah,
Well,
so
like with
yeah,
Mateo, though, his trauma is so deep, it showed up later on after he had worked through things prior. It still showed up later when you were getting ready to get on, and he had to be worked through it again. And it was really
yeah.
kind of beautiful to see how his eye just started to change. It took some time too.
Yeah, there's different layers of it. It's like we worked on the ground and he was, he was dead cold or frozen, checked out with any kind of pressure on the ground because of his lunging and his driving. He was taught to pull a carriage and supposedly second level dressage. And when I got to the point of working with him and developing a relationship and enough trust for him to give me permission to get on, he was absolutely dead to any aids when I got on. I don't know how. I know people lie. He cost a lot of money, came from the Netherlands. He was, at a sale barn. But I'm like, you couldn't even steer this horse. You couldn't steer him. He didn't know how to go unless you clucked. You couldn't stop him. You couldn't back him up with any pressure. Of course, he didn't have a bit in his mouth. But that's the whole point. Here we go to pressure with the bit. I mean, the bit's pressure and release. And how many times have we been taught? And I know in so many riding clinics and my student experiences, attending clinics by various professionals, whether it was upper level dressage, advanced horsemanship with Jack Brainerd, not so much with Jack, natural horsemanship. It's like, hold that rein and pull. And the minute the horse gives, you release, because that release is supposed to teach them to give. It doesn't though, you guys. If you try this experiment with me, I'm going to give you an experiment. The experiment is, and I started to talk about this. I think this video was a year or two ago with Sundance on the ground in hand, asking her to collect nicely in a rope halter and lead rope, and then back up while I'm standing next to her in hand with just the slightest pressure of my hand, my contact. And so the experiment would be, if you're teaching your horse how to give to contact, and then whatever other supporting aid it is for the backup. When I'm riding, it's give to the contact, supple and get soft through your top line, and then the shift of my weight the shift of my weight and kind of like picking up the shoulder ever so slightly is the cue to back up. And that's not uncommon, it's a variation of reining. I wouldn't say it's a variation so much of dressage, but my method is taking, several different disciplines, specifically dressage and reining, and combining it and making it easier for the horse. And so the experiment is, so often, and I went through this too as a student, you pick up the rein and you hold, or you make it happen. And then when the horse gives you that first step or gives you that first supple bend, you release, because you're teaching the horse to what? That when you grab those reins, to yield or give to that pressure. But it ends there. And so you're teaching the horse to give, but it ends right there. What if I want to ask for more? What if I want to ask and you do? What if I want to ask for more and I need more? Especially when it comes to an emergency stop where you pick up the rein and close the hand, not an emergency stop where you bend the horse around, which often can be very misleading and dangerous for both the horse and rider, especially if they take off. So I forget which video it is with Zor, that has like, almost 200,000 views, where I'm demonstrating with this 18-hand, 2,000-pound horse. Now he's not spooking, but I'm demonstrating this principle and this practice of when I close my hands on those reins and shut my fingers around those reins, and I stop riding and get tight, he knows to stop, and he knows to stop and give to that pressure. So he's thinking ahead. He's not just giving, and he's not just stopping. He's giving and stopping, and almost depending on how much I hold that rein, he's thinking about backing up 3 steps. And that's from a canter, shutting that down to a halt. And if I just add a little bit more pressure, a 3-step back up. So he's already thinking ahead, which in this case is thinking backwards. And that's, I hope I'm making sense. That's what I'm trying to drive home when you're teaching is you need to look at kind of the big picture. So it's not just, I want my horse to bend and give, or I want my horse to stop, or I want my horse to just back up once. It's, you want more. Where is this going? What's the end goal of all of this? I want to feel safe. I want that level of control. I want my horse to trust me. So this whole process of asking for more takes a lot more trust and a lot more skill building, trust from your horse and you, right? And so for those of you, I don't train in bits, so I'm not making my horse hurt, and they're not searching for that release of pain. And if, you know, all of this pressure and release, like I'm talking about riding and stopping and backing up with softness and responsiveness, you know, this all starts on the ground first and in hand, because we don't want to sit there and yank on our horse's face. We certainly don't want to be yanking on their mouth. No. And so I guess I'm just, you know, I'm really trying to open up a conversation to think about pressure and release differently, because let me finish this one thought. You know, I'm a professional instructor and trainer, and 98% of my students, like I said, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what your experience is, what your level of riding is, 98% of you are stuck with this. You're still making it happen, and you're making it happen out of force, you know, excessive pressure. And it shouldn't be like that. But yes, go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah. So with Cochise, my Mustang, he was always pushing through pressure, right? And a bend to stop safely would never have worked with him. But now, just the other day, this exercise I did, we had posted a video of you with Sundance just picking up the lead, and she broke at the pole, and that was to start the backup, to, you know, get collection into the backup. So I started to do the exercise with my Mustang, and he's a pretty big horse. So at first he was like, oh, just check in. And then it was, oh, just check in. You know, he just was like, oh, you picked up the rein, I'm checking in, which is prior training from somebody else. And I love that too, but
it's pressure and release though. But see, that's pressure and release probably. He's like, oh, I'll give, but then I'll take again. He doesn't know how to hold and feel comfortable and safe with that.
Exactly. So I did the exercise. I reached over and I held. I did not release, both hands on both sides, just 3 times. Got 3 steps. They were a little crooked at first, but the next time, the next day, all I did was pick up. I wanted him to break at the pole. Well, all I did was pick up from one side, and he started to back up 3 steps. It was like, and it was beautiful because he does not back up easily, but this is really helping him. He's got a big butt, and so he's tight.
Think about it. Yes.
Yep.
I love it. And how to use, this is great, how to use his body. You know, that's where the training, you know, we evolve as students of the horse, as students of the technique, and as trainers for our horses. That's where it evolves, because he's got to find his weight. He's got to find his body. He's got to, you know, the whole purpose of this, the big picture for me is being a classical dressage and working equitation instructor. So you always want the horse to use their hind end. And how many times we ask a horse to back up and they get resistance and lock up through, you know, the jaw, the pole, and the back. And then all of a sudden they're using their front end to push themselves backwards. And it feels horrible for us as a rider. It's jarring to our body. It throws us on our pubic bone and off our balance point. It feels horrible. and the horse is all tight and stressed and not trusting of that experience, so they get locked up in the mind, they get locked up in the body. And so, and often when we try to teach this just through riding, it is a huge trigger for our horses because they've had some really negative experiences. Unless we've started them well, they have negative experiences from hands and people being in their mouth and not giving them a release. And so I want my horse to search for that release. I want them to find it themselves. This is all thinking games. I call them brain games. And it's how we really start to develop our horse's left side of their brain, their cognitive side. And in that whole process, Lydia knows this because she's a student of mine and a committed student. So this whole process of my method it's the saying, and I never get it right after all these years. It's killing two birds with one stone. So, while you're doing one of my techniques, you think you might be you might only be trying to achieve one thing, but you're achieving many things. And one of the biggest reasons why horses lock up and don't give, the biggest, is they don't trust us. They don't trust that enclosure, that entrapment they feel in their flight zone. So it's a mental thing. And this is with young babies or wild horses. And when you do it right, you only do it once. You only have to show them one time. You only have to help them understand that they can trust that pressure and trust you during that giving experience where they can no longer see, you're taking their sight away. Once they understand that they're safe and they feel safe, then it's not all about being comfortable. It's about feeling safe. Then they give that to you all the time. And then the mind comes first, and then it's training the body. And so it's training, like you're talking about cochise, find how you can sit back cochise on that big butt and stretch the back and supple the back, the bascule, we call that, where the back gets round longitudinally, get the bascule. And so this particular, my cats are running around and tearing up everything. This particular position of how I train you, Lydia, the student, to train the horse, the whole position is to open up the top line so that the horse can sit back and not be tight and pushing. So there's, everything.
Once he figured out what I wanted, he was willingly like, oh, this is good. I like this. It feels good. And let's do it again. And now I can't wait to see what kind of difference it makes the next time I ask for the backup when I'm on him. I have permission to ride. Like, I'm so looking forward to that.
I love it. And the amount of trust that you're developing in confidence in you as a leader and a partner is, plus he's thinking, you're teaching him how to think and not react. It's beautiful. I think maybe the title for this should have been Pressure and Release, pressure specifically being a thinking game. So yeah, it's definitely in every aspect of horsemanship and everything we do with our horses, there is a constant element of pressure. Whether we're looking at them, we come in with certain feelings, especially dealing with trauma and rehabilitation. And it's not about pressure and release. Often, I get this where, you want your horse to become comfortable with pressure. So it's kind of changing that mindset. You want them to be comfortable with pressure. So finding the release and what kind of release, if you even need a release, is in question. In the video with Mateo, there's different aspects of that video where I'm working with him doing different things, and he's getting, he's in his self-preservation. It's not crazy, but it's either picking up speed and getting in his flight zone in the lunge, or he's freezing, starting to shut down, or go on autopilot. And I'm either adding some extra pressure to wake him up and get him out of getting stuck there, or I'm holding that space, that pressure for him to become comfortable. but I've got to really pay attention to Mateo that he doesn't just check out all of a sudden and go on autopilot, because he just can't handle any more of that constant pressure. So you have to be really careful, because that's that whole feel and timing. If I'm not paying attention, or I don't have the skills or the experience to gauge all of this, then I can just put him right back into learned helplessness, put him right back into an autopilot, or put him right into fight or flight. So I think, just our mindset, just going into this consciously, more mindfully, with the thought of, if my horse needs to learn something new and positive, how do I want him to learn, and what's the best way for him to retain that information? Too often these pressure and releases are devastatingly wrong, because they become desensitizing and flooding, or you're releasing too often if you're a softer, more gentler type of person, and the horse realizes that if he just keeps giving, the sooner he gives, he's teaching you to back off and retreat, or let go. And it's not about that. It's about, can my horse give, and then can I take that pressure and turn it into something else? It's not always about the release. It's like, okay, can you handle the pressure? And once I have that kind of suppling, can I take that suppling into a canter if I've set you up physically and biomechanically to handle a bend at the canter? Can I ask for more? So yeah, it's pretty profound. Thanks, Lydia. I love having these podcasts with you. As a student, it's awesome.
It's really helping me so much with Prophet. It's helping me so much with Prophet. Prophet is all over the place, and he's precious, but he's at the same time, he's a handful too, And the other day I had to pay attention to the pressure, because he picked up the trot. He was doing it beautifully. He was doing it straight. He had his eye on me. He came in closer in the circle, and when I wasn't paying attention, that is when he pounced. He was like, no, I want to play now, like kind of like Lovey does with you. She'll like, no, I don't want to go to the right. I want to connect with you now. And that's when he gave me the pounce. And I was like, oh my God, what was that?
I love that. He wanted to offer something. He wanted to offer his idea. I love that. But it can be a handful. It can be a little scary when they come in with all that bravado and that excitement and that, rah. You guys see me with Lovey. I'm like, woo, wait a minute, that's too close. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've got a couple of quotes I'd like to read from different master horsemen that are no longer here, and some of them are here. Just in general, they're just different ways of perceiving and teaching about pressure and release. And not to contradict what I just said, the first quote is by Ray Hunt. And we've all heard this before. We've all said it ourselves, or we've heard it from other trainers. Recognize the smallest change, the slightest try. And so I love that. Not that it's contradicting what I'm talking about, but let me put this in context to how I would develop a horse. So I'm teaching them something new, or I'm teaching them something more advanced, something that I'm building on, that I would like them to try more, to do more. I'm going to recognize the change, the slightest try, through positive praise or touch, but not through a release, not necessarily. So if I'm like Lovey, we'll use something that you guys have seen recently on my YouTube channel, one of my live streams, and I'm lunging Lovey, and or any horse, and I'm saying, yes, I need you to stay out there. I need you to either walk or trot, whatever command I've asked. and they want to come in, or they want to change, you know, they want to come in, whatever. And I might say, no, thank you. You're doing a great job. I want you to stay back out there. So I'm acknowledging that they're doing a great job. I'm acknowledging too that they have an opinion, they have a choice, they have a voice, but I'm also saying I still need you out there for a little bit longer for whatever reason. Sometimes with rehabilitation in the beginning, when things are really challenging for the horse, which makes it really challenging for us, and I want it to be the easiest and best experience for the horse. I don't want to fight. I'm not into that. I'm not into riding the buck. I'm not into, you know, showing all these really crazy, extreme, dangerous, you know, situations that we see often on YouTube, because most of us can't deal with that. We're not prepared with experience or skill, and you don't have to. So, you know, with a lot of these rehabs, you know, yeah, in the beginning, I'm going to build on recognizing the slightest try, the smallest change. You bet I'm going to build on that. I'm going to build on it with a stop. To me, it's not a release. I'm not thinking about it that way, but I'll stop what we're doing. I'll give them some dwell time, some process time, a lot of praise. Maybe I'll walk away for 10 minutes or more. Maybe we'll stop for the day. So I'm not thinking about pressure and release like that. I love this one by Ray Hunt. The horse is a reflection of the rider's ability. It really makes you think about, you know, whenever we have challenges with our horses, how much of it is them? How much of it is us? Is it a combination? You know, do we need to take some responsibility? And again, I'm not talking about horses that are trauma cases, because, you know, so much of that is all on them. Someone created that. They came to you, to me. It's our job. But when we have when we don't have that, and we have a really strong and healthy relationship with our horse, and we're hitting obstacles, you know, blocks in the road, it's time to step back and go, you know, what's going on here, instead of pushing. Yeah, I don't know, Lydia, do you have anything you want to add?
No, else? Not really, but there's a question. Can you see it? Do you want to read it?
Let me see. Let me refresh my my screen here. And then oh, good. Hi, Becky, you made it. Hey guys. Hey, Veronica. This is great. Yeah, I can see. Veronica, how long does it typically take for the person to know how much pressure to use and when? It's something I'm still somewhat struggling with. And Veronica, that's a fantastic question. And as I said previously in this live podcast, it takes experience, it takes practice, it takes, you know, it takes a combination of learning from a master, a mentor, but not just visually training your eye, but also physically training your feel. And, you know, a lot of people in my industry, professional trainers, they say you can't teach feel and timing. And I disagree. Everybody's feel and timing, and that's what it comes down to. What your question, everybody's feel and timing is going to be subject to their own individual personal feel, interpretation, understanding, perception, all of that.
And but we can every horse is different. You have to get to know your horse.
Yes, that's true. But everybody can, with feel and timing, we can always improve. And the beauty of it is, and I love it because it's a challenge for me, you are always learning, right? If we want to learn, if we keep the mindset that we're always the student of the horse, student of whatever we're learning, we're always going to learn. We're always going to have that open mindset to improve. And so often what mindset attitude is as I say, 75% of any solution is awareness. And if we're not aware, if we're not asking questions, if we're not seeking that knowledge, then we just stay right where we are. So the great news is, as long as you keep seeking that knowledge and, you stay present with that and open to that, it'll just keep coming. And the truth of it is, as I always say, and I got this from one of the great masters, you only know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. So my level of experience and expertise is based on my level of experience. Your level of experience is based on yours. So it's where I'm going with that is, until you keep practicing and trying, a lot of people just kind of give up because they're scared. They're scared of making mistakes. They're scared of lots of things. But if you stay there, then you're never going to grow or learn. And therefore you'll only know what you know. You won't know what you don't know. I mean, it's all it's like a lot of people, when you take an online course, you can use my online courses as an example. If you only had one horse or even 3 horses, that doesn't make you a trainer. If your experience is limited to X, Y, and Z, and yet you want to learn more about, let's say, riding bitless and balanced, my bitless, balanced, and confident rider course, that's just going to open up a whole new world to you as far as this feel and timing riding. And in the concepts of what I'm talking about with pressure and release are in that course as well. But yeah, I hope I answered that for you. It takes experience, but you need to follow somebody, unless you want to learn all on your own, and, various different videos that are out there on YouTube, it's going to be a lot longer process, and you're picking up different trainers' approaches to things. And that can be very confusing to you as a student and to your horse. I know, because I mean, I've been a student myself. I'm always a student, but I mean, I was a hardcore student for a couple of years when I got back into horses with various disciplines, because I wanted to become my own method, and I wanted to gain as much experience and education possible with the different types of horsemanship and disciplines. Oh, I need to unplug that thing. So, but I also knew about foundation, and I knew that if I wanted to be a professional horse trainer, developer, and teacher to my students, I needed to follow somebody. Even if I discontinued that, which I did, I needed to follow somebody that at least understood foundation and I could wrap my brain around the curriculum, the system, and why a system is so important to developing you and your horse. So that's a big reason why I have a foundation program. But yeah, you're still struggling. Keep working at it. That's a great sign. I don't know your personal situation. You can always email me, Caroline@dalhorsemanship.com. I don't know if you want a coaching session. I offer those too, but I don't know if you're working with one horse, if you have your own horse, several horses. Yeah, the more you can do, the more experience you can get. But following something, like, what are you trying to achieve during that process? Because so many times when you follow a really good method like I have, or training system, everything connects, everything's interlocked. And so when you're working on one specific exercise in my training system and method, like I said earlier in this podcast, you're working on one exercise, but you're really working on 10 things. And so it makes the next building block or the next exercises even easier because of all of the skills and the knowledge and the awareness that you're developing. So you have to be smart about that. because a lot of people are out there with, I don't want to say smoke and mirrors, but a lot of the YouTube videos out there, I'm looking at them too. I'm seeing who's out there, as I call it, my competition. And I'm like, seriously, that is like infancy. That is so basic and so forceful for the horse. And you're making the horse, you're not teaching the horse. You're making the horse submit to pressure and release, but you're not teaching them to think about how to release the pressure and how to seek the release, or how to be comfortable with pressure and understand to wait for their human partner to communicate something else. Yes, Lydia.
And for me, there was like pressure and release didn't feel right when I was looking for a mentor or a program where I could work with my own horse. And so you were it. You were the only one I could find that wasn't talking about or showing, actions are everything. So in all of the things that I watched, I could see pressure and release, and it didn't feel right to me, even if I couldn't describe what it was. It didn't feel right. It looked like force in some way or another, and that's not how I wanted to approach my horse. He deserved more than that, to me, that respect. And so, yeah, what I want to say is that without your program and you, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't be on 4 acres with 3 horses now and a family, I wouldn't have had the confidence, the courage, and the fortitude, maybe even the perseverance, to do all of it by myself, or by the advice of so many people that have so many opinions that aren't anything like mine when it comes to how to treat animals, period. Right. So anyway, I'm very grateful for that. And I had to say that, you are one of the best teachers.
Oh, the best. Oh,
good, right?
My last name. You're so sweet. And inspiration too. It's like, you were inspired to follow, and that's what I teach too in my work, especially the big program. That's the spiritual journey, the personal development, the transformation. I mean, I'm there to inspire you to feel inspired and to follow your bliss and to listen to yourself. And I'm there to support that. And to have this magical relationship and connection with your horse that has inspired you to get your own place and to have them in your backyard and to have more than one. So yeah, the inspiration is so key too. What do we connect with spiritually that inspires us to be the best we can be and be the best we can be for our horses and give them the best life that they need, not what we need, but what do they need too. Thank you. All right, everybody, we're gonna wrap it up. We've been on for about 47 minutes.
Awesome.
I know. And we got a late start.
It feels different. I like you too.
This is great. We're here. So forget Facebook. Hold on for 1 second. Babu, get off that counter. Yep, you got it live and real. She never gets on the counter. Is somebody in here? No. Yeah, somebody opened the door. I think I know who it is. I have a visitor coming today. And it spooked my one more feral cat. So she jumped on the counter in my guest house. All right. Yes, we're going to be here from now on for our streaming live podcast. Of course, I'm going to edit this and put it up on Buzzsprout, where you can find everything horses and more, where we are all about educating, liberating, and inspiring horse owners around the world. Yeah, this does feel easier. The energy is completely different than Facebook.
I agree.
Facebook doesn't like me.
And when
I
is
don't like
next,
Facebook.
when is our next podcast?
All right, we've got Thanksgiving next week, and then the next podcast is December 7th. We go live on monthly, not every Wednesday, but it is only on a Wednesday. And we have, I don't know the title of this podcast yet, but we have a really amazing, exciting guest December 7th, and it is Carolyn Resnick's water hole ritual Liberty method. And we're going to have, I don't know if Carolyn Resnick will be available to join us on the podcast, but I know that her business partner, Nancy Zinsmaster, will. So it will be the four of us, or the three of us, because Lydia is always with me. And we're going to talk about liberty with horses being the foundation of everything possible. I'm not sure what the title is, but something, I know, I'm really excited. For those of you that are not familiar with Carolyn Resnick's Waterhole Rituals and Liberty Horsemanship, Carolyn Resnick was the first woman to pioneer liberty training with horses. And so she's in her early 80s, and I'll let Nancy introduce the history, but this is going to be quite an honor for us to, at least if Carolyn can't make it with her schedule, that Nancy will be available. So we are really excited and really honored. Liberty is a big deal to me in my method, and so this is pretty exciting. So that's December 7th, and then after that we have Chris Newkirk back, and we'll be doing some deeper psychological, more personal development. And that's going to be what, the 15th, I think, of December. And then we're going to break for the holidays. Then we'll have some really awesome new podcasts for the new year.
You get to talk about higher self before Christmas, right?
Yes, we're going to talk about higher self before getting ourselves to higher self, getting out of ego and into our higher self. So yeah, that'll be the middle of December. That'll be good. All right. Well, thank you. This has been fun. It's great to connect with all my YouTube followers. Let me know how you guys liked it. Hopefully you did, because we're going to be I love streaming live, and we'll come here instead of Facebook. Yeah. At least my internet works for this. It doesn't work when I'm out there with the horses.
Yeah, Becky just commented, have to say that, Caroline, you were clear and no delay on this podcast.
Oh, good, Becky. Thank you. Thank you, love. Oh, you're welcome, Veronica. You're welcome, hun. All right. Awesome, you guys. Yeah, this just was easy. It just took us a little while messing around with everything, and I had to log back into everything. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Yeah, we didn't get frustrated. We didn't get frustrated. We did good. Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to wish everybody a wonderful, blessed, happy Thanksgiving. And Lydia and I will see you guys December 7th. I hope you will be promoting it. And I should do something. I'll have to do something with my YouTube header to let everybody know. Okay. All right. Bye. Mwah. Bless everybody. May you always, namaste. May you always be one with your horses. Bye-bye.